everybody, welcome back. If you're new, my name is Chris. Welcome to today's video, which is some of my favorite top shelf fragrances. I started getting into perfumes when I was 8 years old, and my love of perfumes hasn't changed even though my income has changed quite substantially along that time span. The vast majority of my adulthood, I was a student and working towards my profession, and I had no money. I understand a limited budget. I understand not having a lot of extra money to spend on perfumes. Believe me, I've been there, and that's why I always make sure to have a wide range of fragrance price points when I do my videos. I also have dedicated videos for fragrances which I enjoy that are of a lower price point. I've never done a video focused on my fragrances that are at a higher price point, or what I would term my top shelf fragrances. And for tonight's video, I picked 10 fragrances that were $200 or above, which to me is an expensive fragrance, and I thought I would talk about some of those perfumes, many of which I have never mentioned on a YouTube video. Now, before I get started, if you can see the pretty earrings I am wearing, they may be hard to see. I'll see if I can do a zoom up. These were a gift from a new brand called Shesaidyes, and they reached out to me several months ago. I think I've said before, I get maybe during the month, I get multiple emails from lots of different companies wanting me to talk about their product on my YouTube videos, and 95% of the time they get turned down. Actually 99% of the time they get turned down. I have been contacted by other jewelry companies in the past, and maybe it was because of time constraints, or it just wasn't fitting into my life at the time, or it just wasn't a good fit for me. I respectfully declined. But when I saw what was available on their website and I saw the quality of products, I thought, yes, I would buy that with my own money. I am happy to work with the company. Now, I'm not being paid for this video. This is not sponsored. They did give me the option of choosing whatever piece I wanted to wear for the product. So this is something I chose myself. In fact, I wasn't sure if I could actually do the video because it was very, very hard for me to narrow down to one piece, because they have an enormous collection. They have a very big inventory. They sell luxury pieces at a very affordable price. So I had a handful that I just couldn't make up my mind. I finally decided on these bar earrings because I have a much smaller set in my second piercing that I like to wear as well, and I thought they would be a really good fit. They're understated elegance. I either like big hoops or small dainty pieces. I went with an elevated elegant dainty piece. In addition to the rings and necklaces and bracelets, they do kind of specialize in engagement settings, and when my husband and I got married, we had no money, and I mean no money. So having this as an option when you're starting out and you really have a limited budget is great, because you can get a beautiful piece and not go into debt or take out a loan. And so that maybe when you hit your 5-10 year anniversary, you can celebrate with a real gemstone. And it comes in this nice decorative box. The piece would normally be in here, but they're in my ears right now. Like I said, the only things you're going to see me show on these videos are things that I would pay for myself. I previously showed a Teddy Blake bag. Now I am the owner of 3 Teddy Blake bags, purchasing some myself. Anyways, so highly recommend checking out the site, and I do believe I will have a coupon code, a discount code, by the time I post this video. And with that, let's dive into the perfumes. So again, as a reminder, for the purposes of this video, the price point starts at $200 and goes up. So to start off, the first fragrance is one by Roja. His name is pretty much synonymous with elegance and well-made perfumes. And the one that I have in my hand is called Lakme, and I bought it last year. This was a result of a sample swap I did with somebody I met over on Instagram. She sent me a bunch of Roja Doves, and this was one, if not my very favorite, and the bottle is just stunning. Now, I would describe this as a very fancy rose aldehydic amber. And I think Roja Dove is known for having lots of ingredients, and they're very complicated and complex fragrance that kind of take you on a journey. Very well blended. For me, a lot of times it's hard for me to pick out individual notes, but I do get florals, Aldehydes, a little bit of citruses on top, and a woody base is kind of what I get. To me, the rose by far is the star here. So this is not an overly green rose, but it's not a syrupy sweet rose. It's kind of, I would describe it as a velvety scarlet red rose. The color of the rose would be just like the top of this bottle. So it's very citrusy. There's very much a pop of aldehydes, and as this dries down, you really kind of get into the heart of the fragrance, which is very complex and floral. And it dries down, it becomes a little bit more earthy, a little bit more spicy. There's a little bit of pink pepper, I believe, some patchouli, and some sort of woody base, probably sandalwood or cedar. It just smells, this smells like an elegant floral perfume. It just does. This is something I would wear if I were to ever go to a black tie event. It would be, this one would be way up on the list. The bottle is beautiful, the juice is lovely, and it is a very pretty, elegant perfume. Not all Rojas work for me. Sometimes it's just, they're too complicated or almost too floral, but this one was right up my wheelhouse, and I do love this one. The next perfume up is a fragrance I went to a lot of work to procure over the summer. It is one that was very, very hyped over the summer. It was very hard to get. It was Duchessa by Gritti. I actually went to Italy for 2 weeks, and when I went to the Gritti boutique, I did not see it. I picked up another perfume that I really enjoy, I've spoken about. But when I got back home, I had a friend that was traveling in Europe. She was specifically going to Germany. She picked up a bottle for me during her travels, and I have it in my hot little hands. You've never seen it because I haven't done a cherry video yet. You know, everybody was doing cherry videos, and I thought I would do mine in February. To me, February reminds me of chocolate, roses, and cherries. So I'll be doing roses, cherries, and chocolate video in February. So even though I've had it for over 6 months, this is the first time you've seen it. It is beautiful, but very expensive. I think I paid at least $350 for this, and that's really getting up there. When you're in the mid 300s, you better be a fantastic perfume and or do something else, you know, like unload my dishwasher, something like that. It doesn't unload my dishwasher, but it is very, very pretty. It is a beautiful, elegant take on a cherry perfume. The cherry in here is slightly boozy. It kind of reminds me of the cherry in Lost Cherry, but this one also has a very strong saffron note, and I do get along with saffron, so I love cherry, I love saffron. It's got some beautiful warm spices. So it's not overly spicy, but you can definitely detect spices, particularly if you're very sensitive to spices. If you don't like clove, if you don't like saffron, if you don't like anise, you will not like this perfume because I can pick them up, particularly the clove and the saffron. The almond in here is beautiful. I don't like a bitter almond. I like a super sweet almond. I like a powdery almond. The almond in here is perfect. It's not overly sweet and it's not bitter, but it is just perfect. This has a lot of beautiful powderiness to it, particularly in the dry down, and it is strong. I would have been incredibly upset had I spent all that money and this would have dissipated, had a poor performance. The performance on this is beast mode, 12 hours plus with Duchessa. How about we stick with the cherry theme and go with the perfume that made my 22 best purchases of 22. This is Boadicea in this absolutely stunning bottle. This is another gorgeous take on a cherry-based fragrance. So yet again, the cherry in here is very similar to the cherry in Lost Cherry or Duchessa. Maybe not quite as boozy, but this one has a very strong nuttiness. So the almond in here is much stronger and it's drier. So it's very dry, it's very nutty, and that is not present in Duchessa. Duchessa goes more feminine and powdery. This goes in the nutty direction. It also has tobacco and vetiver, which if you're not going to like this fragrance, it is going to be because the tobacco and vetiver, which basically makes it a little bit more masculine. I think this is unisex, but I do know people who do not like this perfume because of the tobacco and vetiver and that they think it leans a little masculine. I think it's absolutely beautiful, but it does have a dry earthiness in the dry down, and that is due to the vetiver. The tobacco is in the background in my opinion, and it's more of a dry tobacco, but this is gorgeous and another very strong powerhouse. This is going to last you, again, all day. Great performance. One that Picky Pat really loves. When I remember wearing this and he made a comment, doesn't always do that. In fact, doesn't do that a lot, but really, really like this perfume, as does everybody around me when I wear this gorgeous perfume. And these bottles are just artworks in and of themselves. Now we're gonna head over into a Fragrance du Bois Minuit et Demi, one I've talked about before, made my top 10 for life, because this is a beautiful, well-blended gourmand that, in my opinion, can be worn year-round. That is very difficult to do. I'm a big fan of gourmands. I love my gourmands, but they tend to be a little bit too heavy for me to wear in the summer. And this one I can wear in the hot weather as well as the cold weather. I think this is a lovely fragrance, even for those who don't enjoy gourmands or don't want to smell like food, because this is not a foodie gourmand in my opinion, even though it has some very gourmandy foodie notes. Caramel, you've got cardamom, coffee, vanilla. It's quite beautiful. There's a pimento leaf in here, but there are also some drier notes, some less gourmand notes that pull it out of the sticky sweet zone. Cedar, vetiver, and tobacco keep this balanced, which is actually part of the magic of this perfume, which makes it very easy to wear year-round. It is a beautiful fragrance. I would say performance is moderate. And I've had people ask me if this is similar to Ray's Spirits. No, in my opinion, very, very different. This is much more similar to Changing Constants, which I do not own, do not need to own because I have this. They're very similar. This is my preferred take. And Ray's Spirits is a very different perfume in my opinion. But beautiful gourmand for gourmand lovers and haters alike, and very much a top shelf fancy perfume in my collection. This next one I haven't spoken about since the summer, I want to say. It is a fragrance that I love to wear in the summer and the spring. It is made by a fragrance line that is getting all sorts of attention, the Maison Crivelli line, and the one I have in my hand is Hibiscus Mahaja. This is the most beautiful fancy tea, hibiscus tea from a luxury resort. The best tasting hibiscus tea you've ever had. Zero bitterness, add a little bit of mint, a little bit of rose in the background, and a big healthy serving of vanilla ice cream. You would come up with something very similar to the juice in this bottle. In my opinion, the rose is soft and there's a little bit of cinnamon in here, but there is nothing soft about how this performs. This is a powerhouse. I wore this to work once. I think I sprayed like 2 or 3 times and people said they could smell me down the hall and around the corner. And they were all fans. They were like, you smell so good. We could smell you down the hall and around the corner. So you have to be very careful with this. Go light on the trigger and it will last you all day, but it is pricey. But the benefit is you do not need a lot. Like I've barely made a dent and I've probably worn this 15 times because I only spray once or twice now. Once I learned how strong it was, I go super easy on the trigger. But another beautiful top shelf fragrance of mine that I can't wait to wear once it warms up just a little bit. My next top shelf fragrance is one I was influenced to buy by a lovely subscriber, Lori Hicks. She gave me a sample of this and it just kind of blew my mind. I thought it was absolutely beautiful. Put myself on the wait list and I didn't have to wait long to get the beautiful Benjoin Boheme by Diptyque. I mean, this bottle is like this cracked glass. It's absolutely stunning. If you like amber perfumes, and a lot of you did comment under my last video that you wanted me to do an amber perfume video, I will do that in February. February is a great time to do that, but this is a beautiful fragrance if you love balsamic resinous ambers. This is absolutely beautiful. Oh my gosh, just stunning, stunning, stunning. Has a little bit of cinnamon, this beautiful amber, very resinous, very balsamic, very warm, and it has angelica in it to give it just the slightest bit of peppery greenness. I mean, it's just so slight. It just offset these beautiful warm notes to give it a little bit of lift, a little bit of brightness, but honestly, one of the prettiest perfumes I've ever smelled. And I have a fancy kind of dinner dance auction to go to for my daughter's high school. Guess what perfume I'll be wearing? I probably will be wearing Benjoin Boheme. It's gonna be in the running for sure. This is fancy, elevated, nothing casual about this perfume right here. Absolutely stunning. You will see it again in my amber perfume video. The next one is by Initio Perfumes. It's not one you have heard me talk about in a long, long time. It is Oud For Greatness. One of my pricier Initio Parfum purchases. Definitely a statement maker. This is smoky oud, saffron, and a little bit of aromatics. I know lavender's in here, but I don't really get a ton of lavender. It's way in the background. What I get is a beautiful smoky oud, and it's the type of oud I love. I'm very, very picky with my ouds. They have to be dry and they have to be smoky. No barnyard and animalic ouds for me, and this is none of that. It's very strong. This is a powerhouse. This is a statement maker. Not for everyone, but I do like this, and Picky Pat likes this as well. If I'm going to have a fragrance video based on top shelf fragrances, will black tie or something from this new Celine line better make it, because these are just, the bottles themselves and the juice inside just scream top shelf. So does this very special, understated, elegant vanilla that I hold in my hand. It's a soft, powdery, musky vanilla. This just kind of reads understated elegance. There's orris in here, a little bit of oak moss, but the oak moss is very tamed down and very much in the base of the perfume. I also feel like I get somewhere in the mid or the heart of the fragrance, I get like a rum-soaked tobacco, a sweet rum-soaked tobacco. I do not think tobacco is in here, but that's what I get. Maybe the vanilla and the orris together, but it is so pretty. It's a sweet vanilla, but there's a powderiness, there's a muskiness to it, and it's not overly sweet, and it's definitely not foody. It also gets drier and more woody in the dry down. And this is a subtle perfume. This is not bombastic or loud like some of the perfumes I've just spoken about. This is on the quiet side, you know, around, I would say mild to moderate, 4 to 6 hours is my range. Beautiful, lovely, top shelf vanilla and everything else in this line. I'm slowly working my way through this line, but this one was my first purchase through the Celine line. Next up is another Roja Dove, and this one was gifted to me for purposes of transparency over a year ago, and I chose it blindly. I was kindly given the opportunity to pick anything out from their line, and based on the notes, I chose this fragrance. Now, when I got it, I liked it. It was a strong like, it wasn't a love, because I felt like I didn't get all of the gourmand notes that were listed. I didn't get as much as the chocolate, the cacao, and the vanilla that I wanted, or that I was hoping to get, and I put it in its little fancy little coffin or coffret, and it's been in storage for about 6 months. I did not wear it over the summer. I haven't worn it in a long, long time, and I pulled it out of the coffret, getting it ready for Valentine's Day and the video, and the juice has gotten about 60% darker. And when I tried it, resprayed it again a couple days ago, that's when the magic happened. This is one of those perfumes that just needed a little bit of a time to sit and allow its beauty to come to fruition, because as you can see by the color of the juice, there's vanilla in here, there's some more heavy notes. Now, it's still a predominantly dense powdery floral, but I'm getting a lot more of the gourmand notes now, specifically vanilla and cacao, like a chocolatey thing, particularly in the dry down. It's a very beautiful powdery floral. These Roja Doves, very hard for me to pick out the individual florals. I know there's probably ylang. I'm sure that there is rose. I know that there's heliotrope, but it's just very well blended. It's a dense perfume, and there might be some, I think there are some citruses at the top, pineapple for sure. I do get a citrus and a pineapple in here when I first spray it, but even though the whole journey of the fragrance is beautiful, for me, my favorite part is in the dry down. So you get that kind of like that chocolate covered, slightly fruity perfume with some dense florals, and it's more sweet in the base. So it's vanillic and woody. There is something about the way this smells, just reads very vintagey, like it has a vintagey sophistication. It does. One time I wore this around a friend. She said, that smells expensive. That perfume smells expensive. And it does. It does smell upscale and very complex, very classy at the same time. So Love by, oh, I forgot to say, this is Ti Amo by Roja Dove. Getting down to the last two, I'm gonna buzz through this one because I just mentioned it in my 22 best pickups of 2022. This is Gourmand Coquin by Guerlain, and I have the Big B bottle. It's discontinued most places, but stock still comes in to the Guerlain boutique at the Place Vendôme in, I want to say Denmark. So that Guerlain boutique still gets Gourmand Coquin, batches of it when they made available. You email them, you put your name on the list, and they will contact you as the perfume or the batches come into stock. Do not give up hope. My name was on the list for over 3 months when I got the email, and I was thrilled. This is a beautiful take on a chocolate gourmand. A chocolate gourmand for non-gourmand lovers or people who are afraid of the note of chocolate because they don't want to smell like food. So this is very elevated. So this is chocolate based, but it smells like an artisanal chocolate hot cocoa with a little bit of rose, a little bit of pepper, some spices, and a little dash of booziness like from rum. So I just spoke about it. I adore it. It comes in the big B bottle, but then they give you this little atomizer to dispense because most people do want to wear their perfumes via a perfume spray, which I do. And I just love this. One of the best chocolate perfumes, particularly if you do not want to smell like a donut. And the last perfume, I'll end with one of my favorites. It is from the line, the Harmonist. This is called Hypnotizing Fire. The brand reached out to me a couple months ago and said they would like to send me their discovery kit or their discovery set. And I went through the whole discovery set, and many of them, there are a couple that were strong loves, and then the rest were either strong likes or likes. And so after I finished the discovery set, they reached out to me again and said I could pick any one from the discovery set, and I was thrilled. But it also was hard to do because there were several in there that I really loved. But in the end, I chose Hypnotizing Fire because for this time of the year, it's just, oh gosh, it's just what I really want to wear. Now, if you're not familiar with the brand, the idea behind the fragrances is to channel one of the 5 elements which are building blocks of all natural phenomenon. And those building blocks are wood, earth, fire, metal, and water. So the idea is each of us possesses all of those elements within us, but we are guided by one of those elements, maybe 2, which is informed by what time we were born, like the year, the month, and the location. You could actually find a perfume that fits your element by taking a quiz they have online. I did not do that. I waited to pick out the fragrances first. Then I took the quiz online, and the funny thing was my favorite 2 were actually the 2 that I was most aligned with, so maybe there is something to that. But anyway, Hypnotizing Fire is a beautiful, complex elixir. And when I wore this to work a couple weeks ago, I had 2 people same day said, "You smell expensive. That smells really good and really expensive. What is that?" And it was Hypnotizing Fire. So this fragrance is very complicated and hard for me to describe, but I think I have something that I've come up with. What this reminds me most of is like if you took the most delicious, fancy, aged sangria and you removed the fruits and instead you added some incense, you added rose, and you added a little bit of pureed pimento. I know it sounds weird, but there is something very slight, there's a slight almost vegetal freshness in here that offsets some of the very heavy notes. So there's patchouli, there's rose, there's vanilla, and myrrh, which are very heavy notes, and they dominate this perfume. But the pimento gives it a kick, and that's where the fire comes in, because the pimento is supposed to be a fiery type of a pepper. So that's where the Hypnotizing Fire comes in. This is a drop-dead gorgeous perfume, 100% unisex, absolutely fits this category of top shelf worthy perfumes, and the performance on this is great. I would call this moderate to strong. So it's going to get you most, if not all, of the day. So I'm gonna end with Hypnotizing Fire, and you will see other perfumes from that line. Now that I have gone through the discovery set and fallen in love with others, you will see others in upcoming videos. So that was it. 10 of my current favorite top shelf perfumes. Not a complete list, but fragrances that I'm really drawn to wear right now and will be wearing in the next couple months, particularly in February when Valentine's Day rolls around. So thank you to all who stopped by. Thanks for watching. I would love to hear about your favorite top shelf fragrances in the comments below. And with that, I will see you on the next one.